What's up, SNA fans? This is Super Ninja Austin back here with another video, and this is a big. This is one of my big favorite times of the month. Is we're going to be talking about PLE review right now, which is the PLE right before the biggest show of the year in WWE. We're on the road to WrestleMania. It was the Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia, on February 24, 2024. Where we saw a lot of all four amazing matches, which I'll say three of them definitely delivered, in a way, even though on the women's elimination chamber did not go exactly how I predicted, and same with the men's in the minor way, but other than one teeny tiny different outcome, it was like the way I predicted, but still my predictions were correct on both the men's and women's elimination chamber match, along with the women's world championship. But we're going to talk about all that in just a second after we talk against the way Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, which I'll say one thing they did absolutely right was made Indy Hartwell absolutely strong. So but yeah, that's the only one thing I would say. But let's start off with, I believe, Candice LeRae and Kairi Sane, and then they fought it out until the numbered advantage got the better of Candice. Until Candice LeRae finally got out of one of their holds, I believe it was Asuka, until Indy Hartwell got into the ring. This is where she started hitting her comeback moves. And this is where they start going tagging back and forth and doing double teams on to, I believe, Kairi Sane as well. And then she hit her signature move on the Kairi, I believe, as soon as she got back in the ring. But I believe Asuka went for the save. This is where and I believe this is where Candice LeRae got. And this is where I believe Asuka then brought Candice LeRae into the ringside area in the right side. This is where she threw it right back. And this is where the fans were cheering for Indy, like, let's go Indy, and it's doing their claps like they would do, like when they're rooting for a certain particular wrestler. This is where Asuka tagged in Kairi Sane. This is where she slammed her right into the bottom. This is where she was like, yeah, WrestleMania season, like, let's go Indy, mocking the fans. This is where she hits that sliding deep forearm right to the face. This is where Asuka, this is where they try to do the numbers advantages. Like when Asuka tried to go for an ankle lock, but Candice LeRae, yeah, that's where not Kairi Sane, it was what's her name? Asuka hit a German suplex right on to Candice LeRae. This is where she was like, you can kiss it to by slapping her backside right in front of Indy Hartwell's face, which I'll say that. I don't think Indy Hartwell would ever want to do that. Like, the only thing she wants to kiss is Dexter Lumis's face. But this is where she hits a top rope forearm as soon as this is where not her, but her tag partner Kairi Sane hit a top rope forearm as soon as she got tagged in. This was try to go for a pin, but this is where Candice LeRae then this is where she tried to go for a headlock, but this is where she puts it right in her corner. This is where Asuka gets tagged. This is where Candice LeRae tried to go for an attack, but she tried to go for a hip attack. But this is where she, I believe, put her right in the face before she could turn around and hit the move. This is where she tried to go for a tag, but she made sure to learn from her past mistakes and finally hit a step up in security. Indy Hartwell back in the ring, getting comeback moves onto everybody that's involved against her and her on-screen mom or sister. This is where she hits her with a body to hit Asuka with a body slam, and then hits a sidewalk slam right on Kairi Sane right on top of Asuka. Try to go for a pin, but Asuka still kick out at 2.5. This is where we got Indy Hartwell draping her right off her right in the middle of the ropes, with her midsection hanging on. This is where she hits a European uppercut. This is where she tried to boot her right in the face, but Asuka move out of the way. This is where he goes for an elbow strike right onto the back of her head. This is where She throws her back in the ring. This is where she thought she's gonna get the win. This is where she this is where she this is where she tags in Candice LeRae. This is where she hits a double Nelson face buster while Candice LeRae boots Kairi Sane out of the ring. This is where she goes for a lion salt. But this is where she would have got the tag team gold if it wasn't for that meddling pirate princess. This is where she stopped her right there. This is where Kairi Sane then tried to throw Candice LeRae out of the ring, which I'm not sure why she would do that because Candice was the legal woman. This is where she got, but it was too late because Candice LeRae counted her and threw her instead. This is where Candice LeRae goes for a diving crossbody, but this is where Indy Hartwell then tried to finish off Asuka, but Asuka was too much for her because she started hitting spinning back fists like back and forth. This is where she hits the German suplex. This is where then Asuka was like, nobody's ready for Asuka. And this is where she tried to go for her finishing roundhouse kick, but this is where Indy Hartwell dodges by a second, before getting hit. But this is where she goes for the most devastating move in sports entertainment. But she kicked out immediately at 2.7. This is where she tags in Candice again, which Candice LeRae went on to the top rope in the bottom right corner. She was walking right onto the ropes, like if she was Commander with a K and the Undertaker, which she has that special ability somehow that she have a special ability to have her walk on the top rope, which I don't know how, even though she was hanging on to Indy Hartwell's hand, even still doing this. But this is where, but it somehow fell through because Kairi Sane was there trip over Indy Hartwell, dragged her out of the ring. This is where she tripped and crashed and burned right onto the ground. This is where Asuka tagged in Kairi Sane. This is where she does that back-breaking sidewalk slam, where Kairi Sane hitting the insane elbow right on top and got the 1, 2, 3. And your winners and still the women's tag team champions, the Kabuki Warriors, which even though I'd much rather prefer that it should have been Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae because this is their moment. Even though they got a chance to, or most importantly, Indy Hartwell got a chance to wrestle in their home country, along with Candice LeRae, and just like Rhea Ripley, even though it's not for the Women's World Championship, but it's for the next best thing, the Women's Tag Team Championship. I think they should have won this match here, and Asuka and Kairi Sane could regain the gold at WrestleMania. I've finally been more to a certain boss that's now going by CEO. Again, it's for the Women's Championship, not the World Championship. Not championship, not just women's tag team championship. I guess for the women's tag team championship, but rather than the world championship. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on this match. But the only one thing I'll give to them, they made Indy Hartwell strong, and they made her potentially and possibly be the next women's championship. Like if she hangs around long enough in WWE's main roster. But let's move on to the next match, which is on the main show, which was the women's elimination chamber match with Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, Naomi, and Tiffany Stratton. That's right. But I believe it started off with what's her name, Naomi and Becky Lynch, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And they start fighting and starting off the fight, with Becky Lynch perhaps saying for the 10,000th time, long time no see, to the former SmackDown Women's Champion, because you haven't seen her in the WWE ring ever since the live event before she walked out with a certain CEO. Or a certain future CEO at the time, in 2022. This is where, this is where they start going they start going at it by grappling and then Irish whipping them into the corners respectively, where they were when they were hitting fists at each other, like which I believe was at the upper right corner, I believe. But yeah, we're gonna. But this when both women were down, like from I believe this is where we got Becky Lynch like. Oh, this is where Naomi tried to whip Becky Lynch right onto the on the on the upper what's that the not up the lower right corner, I believe. Yeah. But I believe Becky Lynch dodged out of it, counter out of it. This is where she hits a big forearm right on me. This is where this is where and then this is where we got Tiffany Stratton grabs on the Becky Lynch and the Fire Women scared with Naomi right onto the middle ropes. But she helicopter kicked Naomi with Becky Lynch's own legs right onto the face of Naomi, catches her, putting her right on top of Becky on her shoulders. And then this is where she was like going for her Fire Women's role, but I believe it was too late for Naomi. But because Naomi flipped out of it, this is where what's her name? Tiffany Stratton had plan B and kicked her right in the gut. This is where she goes for that the Green Bay roll. This is where Naomi tried to go for a big right hand, but this is where Tiffany Stratton hit a right hand of her own right after she ducked. This is where she hits that Fire Women's roll, and this is where she tried to go for that triple dip moonsault, which is a finishing move. But Becky Lynch countered by going right up on top or more likely intercepted and hit a big side Russian leg sweep right off the top rope onto the right from the bottom left corner. Yeah, and this is where Naomi ran right onto the top corner and then split right onto maybe Jey Uso. I mean not Jey, Jimmy, his brother. His jealous brother, Jimmy Uso, probably like this every time he's around with Naomi, like considering they're a couple, of course. But this is where he tried to go for a pin, but this is where both should be kidding me. And then this is where she tried to come up with some more moves to do. This is where she came up with another one. She tried to go for a split-legged moonsault, but when she tried to go for a pin, I don't understand why Tiffany Stratton did this because she stopped her from even pinning Becky. I was like, this is every woman for herself, and it's elimination chamber. Like it doesn't to win. Like the only way to win is if you're the last one standing. It's kind of like in like a pinfall elimination version of the Royal Rumble. Like, and it's a second chance of getting the secondary world championship. If somebody won the Royal Rumble and chose like the SmackDown champion, then you have a chance to face the Raw champion at the Elimination Chamber. Like for an example, like that's how it goes. Gotten her eliminated if it wasn't for Tiffany, like which she kind of I guess screwed herself out of this match. But this is where we got Tiffany Stratton throwing Naomi right into the shoulder, which she wanted to steal the moment, but Becky Lynch then again kicked out of it, like which I was like, maybe not, like even if Naomi did pin her, but what was the point of her throwing her into the steel ring post if it's going to be all in vain? But that's why we got the fourth participant to enter the ring next, which was Liv Morgan, which she cannot wait to continue her revenge tour. And let me tell you, and she was so close of finally getting her revenge onto Rhea Ripley, but she came up just a tad short. But let's talk about what happened. Like when she entered in the ring, she went target right at her arch in her latest arch enemy, I should say. It's nowhere even near future because she's already at the future, like with Tiffany Stratton, like with her now in the present, like with her going after her, start hitting right hands and left, and then throw her right out of the ring, and then she hit her face first right onto the steel, into the pod, right onto the elimination chamber, and to the bottom right pod, which I believe Tiffany Stratton was, and where Bianca Belair was. That's where she started throwing it back and forth repeatedly, like. And this is where Liv Morgan's like, it's Livy time more like, which I was surprised that fans were booing Liv Morgan. Like, even though like Tiffany Stratton's over and they're definitely going to be cheering for her, but at the same time, like, shouldn't you be cheering for Liv Morgan because she's a fan favorite as well? Well, it seems like the Aussie fans do not really care for the former SmackDown Women's Champion. well, this SmackDown Women's Championship, considering Bianca Belair and Naomi, Becky Lynch, or SmackDown Women's Championship. As a matter of fact, Becky Lynch is the inaugural SmackDown Women's Championship. But anyway, this is where we got Becky Lynch to try to go for a right hand, but this is where Liv Morgan gets a right hand. This is where she counters Liv Morgan, hits a right hand on her own. This is where we got Becky Lynch trying to go for a clothesline, but this is where Liv Morgan dodges out of the way, went right behind her, hit a backstabber. Like since nobody that used to be on WWE that used to do that move in the women's division is no longer there, and she's probably going to use that in AEW. But this is where we got a code breaker as well, right onto Naomi as well. This is where she hits a kip up right, so she can get right back up, so she can continue doing more damages to the man and the Glow woman. But this is where she started hitting elbows to Becky and then went back to Naomi, started doing it repeatedly right into the upper left and then the lower right, diagonal from Becky. And this is where she started hitting shiny wizard knee strikes right onto both Becky and Naomi. But first it was Naomi, then Becky, right with Naomi right into the diagonal corner in the bottom right, and then Becky Lynch on the upper left. This is where she then went up right onto in the upper left corner. This is where she goes for a flip-flopping face breaker. This is where she goes for a pin, but this is where the referee counted the one, counted the two, but Becky kicks out. This is where she sits up in a snapmare position. This is where we got Tiffany Stratton came out of nowhere, hit the biggest and surprising shiny wizard kick that I've ever seen from a women's star. This is where Naomi hits a single-legged drop kick right onto the face of Tiffany Stratton. This is where she sits right in the right corner side. But this is where we got Naomi then grab onto Tiffany Stratton. This is where Stratton grabs onto her head and then hits the jawbreaker right onto the former women's tag team and SmackDown Women's Champion. This is where she did a triple-decker cartwheel, while she picked up Naomi and tried to go for an Alabama slam, but I believe she waited too long for Naomi to regain some consciousness and still hang on, and she was hanging on to the Elimination Chamber. Well, I said still, but she wasn't still. She was doing it. She was grabbing onto the Elimination Chamber cage right onto the right hand side. That's where Tiffany Stratton tried to grab her off the chamber, but this is where she was getting kicked, in encounters, with her trying to get her off the cage, but she was unsuccessfully doing so because Naomi was ready for her. This is where she just gave up, and this is where Becky Lynch came in and got involved and attacked Stratton from behind. This is where she then hit a Bexploder suplex right onto her back through the very I would say gnarly and wicked part of the cage, which is like towards the edge, with the metal bars that's hanging the chamber walls, of course. But this is where Becky Lynch did grab onto Tiffany Stratton's arm, her left arm to be exact. And this is where she put it right through one of the holes of the chamber walls. And this is where she did a disarmer right over her arm, while she puts it right in the hole. And this is where she was like, tap out, tap. And I was like, is this still false count anywhere in Elimination Chamber? On the video games, on WWE 2K20, see them pinning or eventually got out of it, slamming Becky Lynch's face right onto the chamber wall. In the right side. But wait. But I would say, wait a minute. Now I remember Michael Cole mentioned that, the rules is you have to make your opponent pin or make your opponent submit or beat him by a pinfall inside the ring. And I was like, I guess that era has ended with the false count anywhere rules in the Elimination Chamber. But this is where we got Liv Morgan grabbing onto Tiffany Stratton. This is where she grabs her, and this is where she slams her face first right onto the Tina the Turnbuckle on the upper right corner. This is where we got This is where we got Liv Morgan to try to go up on the top rope, and I believe trying to steal Tiffany Stratton's move of the sunset flip, I believe. But this is where I'm not sunset flip. I'm talking about a moonsault. Try to go for that, like her version of a moonsault. But this is where Naomi then went right from the upper, right on top of the upper right corner pod of the elimination